All right, we're picking up where we left off in the last video. We've moved away from Appendix A, and now we're back in Chapter 1 on page 22. And we're going to attempt the first You Do It exercise, where we're going to bring up a text editor. You can bring up anyone that you want. Create the code, and then we're going to drop to the command line and get the program to run. Okay? So, first thing we want is a text editor. Windows and the Mac OS have built-in native text editors. We have Notepad on Windows and TextEdit on a Mac. While they both will work, I strongly recommend that you don't use either one. Believe it or not, Notepad is actually better than TextEdit because TextEdit puts you into rich text mode, and it's kind of a pain to configure it if you're a Mac person. So as a Mac person, you might want to look into a few different development text editors. I always like to use Text Wrangler. That's one of my preferences. But there's many of them out there. Kind of the de facto tool that most programmers use in Windows is Notepad++. It's super powerful. It's kind of clunky looking, but it really has a lot of capabilities.
It's kind of plain, isn't it? When you first look at it.
Yeah, but it can do so much, it's actually kind of scary. If you're interested in downloading it, if you don't have it, just go and type Notepad++, go to their website, download it, and you're all set to go. It's very quick and easy install. You can program in just about any programming language you can think about with that tool. It is not an integrated development environment. Yes, sir.
David has a question.
Yes.
I have a question. He wants to know what's CoffeeScript.
CoffeeScript is a variant of JavaScript. It's a shortcut version of JavaScript. When you take the Ruby on Rails class, we will use CoffeeScript. All right? That didn't need to be in the video, but there it is. All right, Notepad++. So I got Notepad++ up and running, and I'm going to do a Control-N for a new file, and we're going to jump back over to the book, and we'll start to create some code. So they want us to create a program called Hello. So we're going to begin, and you can copy-paste if you have the source code available, but I'm just going to type public class hello. And remember from the book, we need an opening curly bracket and a closing one. Do you see what Notepad++ did for me? Now, yours might not do that. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong. Over time, Notepad++ learns to anticipate your movements depending on the kind of work you're doing. Right now, it already recognizes that I'm putting a curly bracket with, I got public class. It's intelligent. It figures it out. So I'm going to press enter a couple of times to create a little bit of space. And we'll go back, and they go as far as like press enter once, type curly bracket, press enter again, then type curly bracket. So it's really kind of on the newbie level. I assume you guys can figure that out without me telling you. But the next part that we want to drop in is the main method. Remember that, oh gosh, I forgot about that copy-paste thing. I'll just type it in like a real person. Remember I told you you're going to memorize this? We type public static void main parentheses string, capital S is important, square brackets opening and closing, and then args. Once again, set of curly brackets, make a little bit of space. You guys can all see that okay, I'm assuming? Nice and clear? If you can't, please let me know. I can always bump up the font size or change colors. All right. Let's move on to the next set of instructions here. Now we're going to do the obligatory hello world, and you can do something else. And I'm going to be smart this time. I'm not going to copy and paste that because I know it's going to bring in those citations. So I'm going to type in the line because I know what the code does. I'm going to indent a little bit. I'm going to type a command, system dot out dot print ln or print line. Then I'm going to do a set of parentheses, double quotes, and now I'm going to fill in those double quotes with after all, we're in Racine. It's pretty much the whole world, so. And we put a semicolon at the end of the statement. Any individual statement in Java has to terminate with a semicolon. It must. Now, I'm going to try to be efficient with screen space here as much as I can. Now, this author has this habit of when he's creating code, of writing all the code and then telling you to save it. My habit is I go way to the bottom of the assignment, save it, and then write the code. You want to see why? Because when I come back and I actually go to save it, and we should talk about file management too while we're at it. I have certain spots where I store files when I'm working on them for particular classes. And I'm sure you guys do too. All my school stuff is in my Google Drive, and then I have a folder for my class, and then I think I already, no, I guess I didn't. I guess I'm going to create a new folder. And I'm just going to call it Java Summer 16. You can call it whatever you want. Doesn't matter as long as you know where it is. You can put it wherever you want, as long as you know where it is. The last place you should put it is on a flash drive. You guys are going to get my anti-flash drive speak, right? Flash drives are about as good as floppy disks, except they hold more information, but they're pretty much in the same category. All right, so now I'm going to save this, and they want me to call it Hello Java. Now you remember how I told you that when you create a class, the class that holds the whole program, that the name of the program has to start with a capital letter? The name of the file has to match that exactly. So I can't call this hello here and type something different here. I cannot use lowercase here. It has to be exactly the same. Otherwise, it will not run. It will not run. It will not run. So we're having a semantic argument here. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. And did you notice what happened as I did that? The color changed. So one of the advantages of actually saving it right when you start, and let me just show you what my habit would be, is I would create a new file. First thing I do is I'll, and notice I'm using a Java file extension here, folks. And that way, when I start typing code, it'll start color coding right away. So that's recommended. Now, let me also give you a super quick little talk on file extensions. These days, it's also true for Mac people. If you are looking at your work in your folder, and I'm going to go into my folder just to kind of demonstrate to you. Actually, this folder is fine. So you can see my files listed here, and I can recognize just from the little icons, for example, that this is a Word document. The default mode for Windows these days, ever since XP came out, is that file extensions are hidden by default. While fine for most users that aren't coders or IT people, terrible for us IT people. We need to know the file extensions. We need to be able to see them. So when you're saving stuff, if you're not in this mode, you may end up with a file that you've called hello.java.txt. Not good. So you need to make sure your file extensions are visible. In order to do that, if you're in Windows 8 or 10, we have what they call this ribbon bar, where all these commands are. And by default, that is not viewable. In fact, this is probably what you see. But if you look really carefully right here, there's this little expander arrow, and then you can go to the View tab, and see this little box? If you were running it without file extensions, this is what you see. You do not see the docx or the PDF or TXT or whatever it is. You don't see it. All right, so you want to make sure it's turned on. If for some reason you're running Windows 7, Vista, or God forbid XP, really it's God forbid Vista, and from my opinion is it's God forbid Windows 7 at this point too. You guys really should move into the future. There's a different approach for doing it. Basically, you press the Alt key to bring up the menus, and if I remember right, it's folder options, and you get to this menu, and there's a spot in there where you can choose to not hide file extensions. It should have a little checkbox that says hide file extensions. You uncheck it so you can see them. Very important that you do that. You guys, I'm hoping, have already been schooled in that capacity, but I can't always make that assumption. Kind of depends on who has been teaching you. But absolutely, IT people should always see their file extensions with, always. Always, always, always.
Especially for Windows 10, because Windows 10 actually has a little bit different option than the previous two. It's file explorer options, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
And then just uncheck the one, user restricting still, the one that hides file extensions from all file types that we use.
Right, and I don't know if the commands are still the same. No, they're... Yeah, I don't remember how. I know that you can make Windows 10 behave like older versions of Windows, but that's so long ago I kind of forget. But I can, if I had a Windows 7 operating system up, I would show you how to do that. If you're not sure how to unhide your file extensions, go to YouTube, type in Windows 7, stop hiding file extensions. Somebody will have it out there. So just always remember you can do that. All right, let's get back to doing the actual work. And one thing we have to make sure of at this point is that you actually saved it with the correct file extension. So I'm going to go to the folder where my work is stored. It's not in that folder. All right. All right, so this is where it's stored. Notice it's got a Java file extension. That's what we want. Now this is the one that I kind of created that's nonsense, so I'm actually going to delete it. Now I'm going to show you another really handy little trick. Okay, first I'm going to show you the hard way, and then I'm going to show you the handy little trick. Right, we're going to be running this from the command line, and we're going to compile it from the command line and run it from the command line. So that means we have to go back here, and now in order for me to run it, I have to find my way to this folder. You guys ready for this? All right, here we go. Where was it? Oh gosh, I have to look. It's in my folder, which is my user account, which is my Google Drive, which is, okay, I think I know where that is. All right, so watch, and this is what happens. People in modern times, they really don't know their file system. Like, the good thing about working from a command line is you had to know your file system. You have to have a really firm grasp on it, otherwise you were toast. Now it's like the operating system does so much for you, you just kind of save it wherever and you can find it. Windows will find it for you. So I'm going to go ahead and let me show you the old-fashioned way here. Okay, where's my user directory? Aha, it's called users, so I'm going to type cd users. So now I'm in that folder, right? And I'm going to do another dir. Where's my, oh, there's my account, CDTK. All right, let's do a DIR. Oh gosh, where was it? Oh yeah, Google Drive, CD. Now watch this cool little trick. I just type a G, press tab. Ah, okay. The command prompt's gotten smarter over time too. So now I'm in my Google Drive.
Like it already comes up as C users / your name.
Yeah, that's the default.
Yeah.
All right. Oh wow. All right. Okay. Which thing am I looking for? Oh yeah, I'm looking for the one that's 152-184. So I'm gonna start typing that. CD 152-184. I got my tab. Okay, great. So you see all the rigmarole you have to go through to get to where you're going? So once you get there, then you can compile it. Okay, so it's kind of a hassle. So here, let me just put us back to where we were, back at the C prompt. If you have a regular file folder window like this, you can actually click in the address bar. Do you notice how it gives you the whole path now? And it's already highlighted. Control C, back to the prompt. Control V. Windows 10 does Control V. Previous version of window, you have to right click. Paste. And now, oh, see what it's doing? I broke it. You guys think I'm serious? No, I didn't break it.
CD,
What's that?
CD, was that okay?
So what did I do wrong? Yeah, it's not liking the space in the Google Drive.
Quotes.
Yeah, it needs quotes to go there. Let me try that again. There's a space in there now. Yeah, it's a little cumbersome. So I was going to go one by one and try to get to that spot. It's really kind of a pain. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have to go back to what I was doing before. Okay, now why is it giving me that every time?
CD, change directories.
Oh, you know what? You win the prize for the day. Because I didn't put change directory in front of it, CD. So now it's going to work. Boom. See what happens? All right. So here we are. I'm going to type my dir command. Dir. Directory. All right. There's my hello Java file. Now I'm going to compile it. What's the command for compiling? It tells us.
Java C.
Java C. Javac. And then what?
Name of the file.
Hello.java. It's not recognizing it.
You set your path?
I set my path. You saw me do it. Did I set my path correctly?
That's a good
I
question.
don't know.
That's a good question.
That's a good question. I just went with what the book had. And this is the problem you guys might run into.
Ah,
All right. I actually have to look. I'm going to go back to program files, back to Java, to the JDK. There's my bin folder, right? Going into it. Let's see, Java C is right there. It should run. That's the program we're trying to execute. So once again, I'm going to click in the address bar. I'm going to grab that path, Control C. Then I'm going to come back to the prompt here. And remember those path statements that we grabbed? see if I get my Notepad++ here. And we had these two commands. Apparently, this wasn't quite right. Looks right, but it's not quite right. So I'm going to paste. Do you guys notice the differences?
Yep.
Capital letters. It used to be that the prompt was never case sensitive. You could type all upper, all lower, it didn't care, it just recognized that all is lowercase or uppercase. But now it actually does matter. So now I've corrected that, and I'm going to retype these commands. Now here's the interesting thing. You're going to remember to do this every time? Probably not. So what's not a bad idea is to put these commands into a text file and save the text file. It's all set for you. All right.
Do we have to do it every time?
No. When we start working with an IDE, we won't have to worry about it at all. But if you're working from a prompt, you have to.
You have to set the path every time?
No, set the path once per session.
Yeah, 1%.
So I'm going to type in that command. I'm going to make sure that the set class path is still in there. Now I'm going to issue that same command. Well, I better just type it in. What was the command? Java C.
And then file name. Space file.
What was my file name?
Hello.java.
Oh, that's a good sign. Remember I said if it does nothing,
That's good.
it's good. If it does nothing, that means it compiled.
Although, you would think it'd be a little more reassuring if they had some sort of a message that would come up and say,
Success.
successfully, yeah,
Or
something
woohoo.
like that.
All right, so now we're going to launch the program, and we're going to just do that by typing Java, hello, and there it is. Took us 2 whole class periods to get this far. And it's DOS. Oh my God, I want to go home. Okay. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Okay, so that's how you do it from the command line. You want to work from the command line? Feel free. You can even run graphical applications from the command line. So you could create like a GUI program, compile it here, and run it from here.
You can launch Word from there, WinWord.exe.
Yep, you can launch anything from here. It's the secret of Windows. All the programs launch really from the command line. You just don't see it. It's hidden from you. All right, folks, let's switch over to a real tool. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a piece of software, and I have this in the core shell, and JGrasp is the tool, and I really like using this tool because, well, first of all, it's free. Free is good. This tool was built in a university environment by faculty and students for the express purpose of learning how to code in Java. So go into your core shell, go to the resources page, and then you'll see right here the JGrasp IDE is what we're going to use. Yep. This was developed at Auburn University. Auburn, yeah. Where's that located, you guys know?
Alabama.
Alabama, that's right.
Located somewhere in the United States.
Yes. 1,000 miles south or so. All right. So here's where you can download the software that you need. Be careful about what you pick here. Obviously, you pick your operating system. So it's Windows, Mac, or Linux/Unix. Notice that it's just a single self-extracting archive. So you're downloading an exe file, so it's pretty likely that your machine will say, be careful with this file or it'll get scanned. whatever. It's just a self-extracting zip file is all it is. So go ahead, download and install that. I'm going to pause the video for just a moment to make sure everybody gets to that point.
Will you include the admin items?
We want the newest version, right?
Get the newest version. Oh yeah, you should pay attention to the version numbers. Notice how this requires 1.6
Yeah.
or higher, and we're fine that way. Do you want the tutorials? I would say no. You got me for tutorials. If you want them, I guess grab them. All right, quick pause. All right, so I think we got everybody here up and running with JGrass, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that environment up and just show you very quickly how to utilize it to do the same work that we just did. So I'm bringing up the environment, and like I said, this is developed in a university setting, not necessarily by people that code Windows applications for a living, but it really is a pretty powerful little program. It can do just about anything any of the other development environments do, except basically check your syntax on the fly and do suggestions. It does not IntelliSense, and that's what we call those tools. All right. Despite that fact, you can see here I already have an exercise open. I'm actually going to navigate within the environment to the folder where I have my work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open. And you can see I can do that whole navigation thing again. So you can see the interface is a little kind of primitive or clunky looking. Don't let it throw you. It's still a very powerful piece of software.
And less overhead, so it runs more efficiently.
Guess what language they use to code it?
Java.
There you go. All right.
I think you threw a softball there as well.
Yeah, that was totally a softball. All right, so I'm going to open up that same file. And actually, as we're sitting in this folder, take a look really quick that in the spot where I had my original Java file, notice how there's a class file in there too?
That's the compiled version.
That's the compiled version. That's the executable. Notice the file extension is now class, because it's a class file. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open that. And there you can see the same code. I'm getting a signal to pause. All right, so this is the environment up and running. You can see I have my code. On the left-hand side, we have a navigation window for where our files are. Notice I'm not in the folder right now where my files are located. If you want, you can navigate to that location, and that can actually be kind of handy because you can see the work that you're working on as you go. This is not like the Solution Explorer in Visual Studio. It's not that kind of tool. It's much more primitive, but it does allow you to see where your files are, and it does allow you to, to move stuff around and save it and whatnot. So it's a little bit more primitive, but it still has quite a bit of capability. So now I'm in the folder where this file resides. So if I wanted to, I can drag and drop stuff in, for example. All right. So here we have our code, and I'm going to point out just a few very simple tools for you, all the tools that you need to get up and running. Well, first of all, there's the code editing window. If you guys want to show line numbers, which I recommend, it's Control-L. The reason that's handy is because if your code is not good and it throws an error, it gives a line number, right? Not a big deal with 20 lines of code. Try like 1,000. It becomes a little bit of a problem. All right. Then come up here and take a look at these like goofy looking little buttons. And the ones that you're going to get familiar with, compile and run. Those are the primary ones you're going to use, those two. Oh yeah, there's a debug too. Okay, I'm not worried about debug right now. Right now we're worried about making it compile and run. So those are two buttons you need to worry about. All right. So in order to compile the software, I hit that button In the background, now you've seen what we do on the command line, like the DOS approach. It's the same thing. It's just happening inside the environment. So I'm going to hit the compile button. You're going to see at the bottom, it runs the compiler. It actually runs it. It shows you the command it's running. And then if it's got no problems in between here, if there was an error, it would tell you. If this is what comes back and there's no errors, you're golden. You're good. You're ready to run. Then I can come up here and hit the run button. Little guy running.
I was going to say, how appropriate that it's a guy running or a computer running.
All right, and there's your output. So you can see that it compiles in the same environment and it runs in the same environment. You don't have to jump around and do all this rigmarole. I still think it's important that you know you can do it from the command line. And like I said, I have the purists out there that insist on working from the command line, and that's absolutely fine. There's no problem.
Now, that being said, the chapter 1 exercises, you want those done specifically by the command line, right? Because that's part of the experience.
The you do it exercises
Yeah.
that tell you to work from the command line, you should do from the command line.
Yeah.
When you get past that, you don't have to go to the command line for the rest of the book.
Where's the G switch you want to do that?
That's an excellent question. I'm assuming that it forces it into the graphical environment, but that's just a complete guess on my part. If you want to be considered for extra credit points, you could look it up. I'm not guaranteeing extra credit points, I'm just saying. All right, so you can see how this is handy for the stuff that we're going to do. Unlike Visual Studio, which is the product you guys probably know best, notice that if I have like a syntax error, like I get rid of my semicolon, it's not throwing an error. You see that I got rid of the semicolon there? Now watch what happens when I compile. Hello.java, :5, line 5, error, semicolon expected. And look at that. It points right to the right spot.
It's got a little carrot, too.
Yeah. Now, what's cool about that is it'll try to get you as close as possible to the error. This type of error is pretty easy. But sometimes there's very complicated errors that you're not going to be able to reason through, but it'll get you close. It'll at least put you in the ballpark. And over time, you'll get to recognize certain ones. One of the exercises that you do in the chapter is to work through actually making it break so you can see what the messages are. You get to be familiar with them. So I'm going to put my semicolon back, and this time I'm going to misname my main method. And I'll try to compile it again. You guys notice what happened? It compiled just fine. It assumes I know what I'm doing. There's no syntax errors in the code. I just happen to call the part that's holding my code MAI. That's okay. Now,
Because it's still a method.
it's still a method. It's not going to run.
Yeah, because you've got to have a main method in each
Yes.
app, right?
It has to have a main method named main in order to actually execute the code. But it's also giving you indication that you can write code that does not have a main method in it by intent because it'll perform other functions. All right. So that's an example of working with JGrasp. Now, given the limited time that we have left, what I want to do at this point is I want to jump to the chapter exercises and try to work through at least one or two of them. So if you guys are ready for that, I'm going to move to that, but I am going to record it in a separate video. Okay?